Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I am your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave television network. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I always appreciate the viewers and listeners who listen to this podcast. I so appreciate it. You know, the other day my daughter Sari was talking to my niece Olivia, who is away out of state at college, and she said, "I listened to your podcast, Auntie. I listen to them when I'm cleaning," and it just touched my heart. It made me so happy. I always appreciate anybody and everybody who listens, and I really, really am here so that people can get something out of these podcasts and really have it add to their own health and well-being and their healing journeys. So thank you, Olivia, for watching. I miss you and love you. And thank you to everybody else who listens. Also, thank you to Bold Brave Television for having me. Without them, I wouldn't even be here in this way. So today, I am getting back to sharing stories of healing. You know, I took a little side road there for a while. I was talking about, had a few episodes where we were talking about narcissism and narcissistic abuse. And, I really enjoyed doing that. And, Talks with Tracy, it's a place where we focus on emotional healing and putting an end to emotional suffering. So, going down that rabbit hole was a necessary adventure because so many people have been impacted by relationships of that nature, myself included. And, it's so prevalent in our society today. Well, actually, it's always been prevalent and historically prevalent in our society as well. It's just that it is brought to our awareness today and it's talked about. And that's a great thing, so I did enjoy doing those episodes and talking about those things. So again, today I'm getting back to sharing stories of healing. We're going to hear from a beautiful woman named Katie Zebra today. Katie is someone that I met when I was doing my training in rapid transformational therapy. And that's a model of hypnotherapy developed by the great Marissa Peer. And I really appreciate this model of hypnotherapy. I love using it. I love doing it with clients, and I've had it done on myself before. And, I just learned so much during the intensive year-long training. So one of the greatest takeaways that I received through this training was, a true understanding about the incredible connection between mind and body. Now, I am a mental health therapist. I have been for so many years, and I do have an understanding of that. However, I really didn't appreciate and honestly understand just the strength of the connection until I went through my own suffering and healing experience, and then also went through the Marissa Peer training. And that training, it was one more step in my own healing process of putting the pieces of the puzzles together and understanding my own experience. So it was really impactful for me. Marissa Peer, she teaches that the mind responds to the words that we use in our heads and the pictures that we provide, the mental images that we create. And, our mind hears these words, it sees these images, and it acts accordingly as though it is the true reality of things. And I'm going to be doing several episodes in the future about hypnotherapy and the power of the mind, the power that each one of us contain inside ourselves to impact our life experience through our own mind's power and influencing our own minds. So those episodes will be coming in the future. But just for a quick example, I learned that 80% of all ailments that people present to hospital ERs with are emotionally based, have their basis in emotion. And you know, I wasn't aware that it was to that extent, but it makes total sense to me now. And of course, I have my own experience with that. I learned the hard way, a very hard lesson about emotional care, or what happens when you have a lack of emotional self care. When I subjected myself to horrible self care and didn't take care of my emotional experience for an extended period of time when I was leaving a relationship. And in the midst of all of that emotion and my body just being assaulted with cortisol, I developed type 1 diabetes in the midst of that. I wasn't even pre diabetic until I went through a 3-year period of breaking away from a toxic relationship. And that developed, it came to fruition. Now, my doctor, she adamantly disputes my belief and my knowing that I brought that on myself. I brought that to fruition, but it is my own knowing. And I do know it was related to the emotional stressors that I was not taking care of um, myself. So please know that I am not saying that other people with type 1 diabetes have brought it on themselves. I am only speaking to my own experience, my own knowing, and my own belief. And excuse me for one moment. That was perfect timing. That was my insulin pump yelling at me. So, okay. Katie Zieber is here with us today, and she's here to talk about her own healing journey. She's experienced a similar process to my own, and she'll be sharing her experience with adversity that brought her to a point of, suffering that really made her do that deep dive inward into her emotional experience. And, she's done some incredibly healing work on herself, and I'm so impressed with her that I'm just so excited to have her on. So let's get right to her story. Please join me in welcoming the beautiful and amazing Katie Zieber.
Hello, Tracy. Thank
Hello.
you for
Good
that.
morning.
Good
Yes,
morning.
absolutely. I am so impressed
Yeah,
with you. I'm so excited for you to share your
thank
story. So
you. I
thank
appreciate
you
that.
so much for being here today. Thank you for agreeing to share your story with us. On Talks with Tracy here, I like to call it getting naked on Talks with
Right,
Tracy, because
it
it
is.
really is a process of getting very vulnerable, being
Yes,
very honest about your emotional experience and how it's impacted your life in general. That deep dive inward, it really requires us to go to those most sensitive, uncomfortable,
yes.
vulnerable places
The
within,
ones that you've been shoving down.
yes, and be so honest with ourselves. And it's also kind of a process of accountability as
Yeah.
well. So I know that you have shared some of your story on TikTok, and
Yes.
then I also saw it on your Facebook. And
Yeah.
do you agree that it kind of feels healing in itself to share your story with others? And
Yes,
you
it's
know,
like coming full circle. First you're
yes,
kind of worried about yourself, and then after you're kind of trying to teach other people, and that's its own healing journey. It's
right,
putting yourself out there and helping others to just say your own truth, you know.
right.
So
And I know I have many many moments where I so resonate with the story of other people. Like,
yeah,
oh my, that me too, that I feel the same, I had the same experience. And it really helps to normalize it, so
it
you don't
does.
feel so alone.
Yeah, and get
Yeah,
trapped in your head too. If you realize somebody else is going through the same kind of thing, then it's everything's fine. I can figure
yeah,
this out.
right. And then eventually maybe you could get to a place, or a person can get to a place where they actually talk with others and reach out to others and receive that direct kind of support
Yes,
that is super healing. Joining in sameness is super healing, right?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So, can you just kind of start by telling us your backstory? So much of our um, emotional baggage, so to speak, the emotion that we carry within ourselves, it really begins in our childhood experiences, and we're not even really conscious of the fact that we're carrying all these beliefs and emotions with us through our lives.
Yes.
So maybe we could start by hearing some of your backstory so we can
Yes.
understand how your suffering came to be.
Absolutely. I grew up in a household that there was a lot of alcoholism. Um,
Mhm.
Also, I came from a Baptist background, and also there was a lot of narcissism, codependent
Mm.
kind of relationships going on in my family. Period. But it was chaos.
Mm.
There wasn't much teaching us how to emotionally regulate ourselves. It was kind of just control, control, and
Right.
a lot of neglect as well. They weren't tuned in to us. I had three brothers as well. I have three brothers as well.
Yeah.
They weren't very tuned in. I had these beliefs for a very long time that I wasn't lovable. I wasn't cared for. I had to gain acceptance through a performance. So I sang a
Mm.
lot. I sang in church. I was always putting on a show, and I was never really saying what I actually felt. I was never actually feeling the things inside of me that I needed to feel. I just shoved those down right off the bat. Right. That's all I knew
Mhm.
was to shove it down and keep going and try to be the happy mediator between anybody getting angry. I was terrified of other people's
Mm.
anger. So everything was
Mm.
keep it like Mary,
Yeah.
put on a show, and making everything happy. And that really bit me in the butt after so
Right.
long
Well,
of
and
that happening.
you said that you had some came from a narcissistic family dynamic,
Yes,
and
yes,
so often we've talked in previous episodes about so often we as children we end up in these positions where we're serving others, trying to be
yes,
what other people expect of us, trying to help. We're like an extension of a narcissistic parent, so we need to make them look good and things
yes,
like that. And you also mentioned that you were never taught to regulate emotion, and
yeah,
I think that's a great point because we're not born into this world knowing how to regulate emotion. Anybody who
no,
has, newborn babies know that
yes,
we don't come out knowing how to regulate emotion, and it really is the job of the caretaker to help us learn how to regulate our emotion. And then also, our emotions are regulated through solid caretaker relationships, which it sounds like you didn't have, which
no.
causes even more dysregulation.
Yes. So you're really just trapped. You're trapped in your mind, and there's nobody there to kind of solve those issues for you of how should I handle this? How should I cope with this? Because the
Mm.
people that you could come to are also not coping. They don't understand how to cope. They are not regulating themselves.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And often, when you have unhealthy caretakers, they're in fact looking to you to regulate their emotion because they
Yes.
don't know how to.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I felt
That,
a lot like I was the little ball of light, and so it was kind of what I was used for. Like, oh, you make me
mhm.
feel good, and that's kind of it's carried on throughout my life too,
Mhm.
until it didn't.
Yeah. Well, those patterns, yes, carried on throughout your life with a
Yeah.
lot of those same core beliefs that are developed in the midst of that. So, what would you say some of your core beliefs were? You did mention some of them, like not
Yeah.
mattering and
Yeah.
being there to make other people happy, and
No one loves me. No one loves me enough to see me for who I really am. Um, I felt
um,
like I was constantly putting on a show, but nobody really knew how I felt or cared about how I felt. They just cared about the show that I was putting on, how I made them feel. And I felt like I had to save everybody. I felt like it was on my shoulders to have to save everybody. I was the one who needed to come by and save you from yourself and help you feel better about yourself and get you out of those negative emotions. But all of the negative emotions that I was feeling were kind of shoved down. They were shoved way down because I was micromanaging everybody else's dysfunction. their anger,
Right.
And so
And
I
when we
developed social anxiety from that too, because
oh,
that's too much. That's too much to take on for anybody. That if I'm in charge of everybody else's emotions but my own, it's not going to work. It's a not a foolproof system.
absolutely, and the absolute reality of it is that we can only make ourselves happy, and when
Yes.
we fall into such intensive people pleasing behaviors where we're just trying so hard to make others happy, it's a futile effort, right? We never
Absolutely.
make somebody else happy, and then we feel like we're failures. We're
Yeah.
failing in our job that our role in our family, if it's to keep everybody happy and be the shining light, and then
Yes.
nobody's happy, well,
Yeah.
that really can lend to our what I call not enoughness, right?
Yes. Absolutely. I definitely never felt enough. I never did feel
Oh,
enough. Hmm.
yeah. Such confusing and chaotic and painful beliefs to develop and carry about yourself. So, thank you for sharing that. We're
Absolutely.
we're going to break for a commercial here, but I would love to hear a little bit more about that childhood experience, and then kind of talk
Absolutely.
about how it followed you into adulthood without you even recognizing it or seeing it or knowing it. As so many of us, we have so little awareness about all of
Mhm.
these things that drive us forward in our lifetime. So I'd love to hear more about that after the break. So,
Absolutely. Awesome.
yeah, so again, we're going to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, we will be carrying on our conversation. You're watching Talks with Tracy, with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on Bold Brave Television Network. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy. I'm your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on Bold Brave Television Network. I am here today with the amazing Katie Zieber, and she was just in the last segment sharing some of her backstory, some of her childhood history with us, and she touched on some experiences that were very difficult and created some limiting core beliefs within her that kind of moved her forward into her life. And um, it's really important to have an understanding of the backstory so that we can this is all part of our healing journey, where we actually look into our own personal stories and start to put the pieces together so we can understand where the suffering came from. And once we have that understanding where the suffering came from, then we can start to look really deeply in about the impact it's had, the experiences have had on us, and really start to do the healing. It's like we have, um, uh, we're always being driven and living in our subconscious mind for like 90% of the time. So we're always living in our past. And it's like we have this little injured bus driver driving our bus through our life, right? And this bus driver is going through our experiences, and we're experiencing our life today through our past experiences, as coloring our perception, and it's dictating how we feel about life. And this little injured bus driver is like seeing danger around every corner,
Yes,
that
absolutely.
dangers that don't even exist, and bringing
Yes.
awareness to all this so that we can be our own bus drivers and have our little injured bus driver, go like retire.
Yeah.
And that's really the goal here. So, yeah, you were talking about your childhood, and you were talking about some of the dynamics within your family, your household, and I would guess that you just thought that all of these kind of relationship dynamics you described were normal, that
Yes,
everybody
I
was like
did.
that. Yeah.
I did. I occasionally, I frequently cried. I frequently cried as a child, and that was very upsetting to a lot of people in my family because they didn't handle
Oh.
emotions well. But
Mm.
even though I didn't really truly understand the emotion that was going on at the time, I still I was very an emotional child. Um, I think a lot of the issues were with the narcissism and the alcoholism, and so every night it would be coming home to, or I would be at home and my parents would be beating on my mother or um,
Mm.
on my brothers, but I never got that. So it was kind of like I was only teased. I only got this. I didn't get the worst of it. So I felt better about that. Like, it was Kate, plug your ears, or, because I was the golden child. If we know narcissism, then there's got to be a golden child. And I was that because I made him
Mhm.
good. I stroked the ego. I made him feel like he was doing things right. And that went on for a really long time.
Right. And you said you sang in church as
Yes, I
well?
sang in church. Yes, I sang in church as well. My grandmother was also a singer, so I would go and I would sing with my grandmother. But that was another thing was when you're a child, you kind of you see through all of those kind of programs that people are in. Um, and I realized how many discrepancies there was between what they were telling me I needed to be and who they were as people. Because there was a lot of negativity, there was a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism, a lot. It was very much lacking love. It was mostly just criticism and
Mm.
teasing, lots of teasing. That's what, like I could tell when people were getting teased by them that they were feeling upset. And it was always, they can't take a joke or, we're just
Too
kidding. Don't be
sensitive.
so dramatic. Yeah. So, and you feel like, oh, but I feel like it's bothering them too. Can't they tell why they should care? They should love people. That's what we're going to church to learn how to love, I think. That's what I feel like we're here for. But
Hmm.
that's not what a lot of people do it for. It's for, you know, the look of it.
Appearances? Yeah. Yeah, that sounds very confusing.
Yes,
So,
very.
so you're describing growing up in an alcoholic family, and a family that kind of is about appearances, and it's confusing because what the appearance doesn't fit the reality of what really
Yeah.
happens in your home, and you're seeing abuse and whatnot happening, yet you're not receiving abuse in the same way as other
Yes.
people. Of course, you were, right, emotionally. When
Yeah.
if you're not allowed to have feelings, and you obviously were a very feeling, caring, kind, loving person,
Yes.
that's a lot of chaos. So how did you deal with that? how did you deal with that as you got into like your teen years and things like that?
Well, I think I tended towards perfectionism until about 14, and that's kind of when it everything hit at once, and I was sour. I was angry about how things had turned out. My mother and father got a divorce when I was 8, but it was still there was still a lot of chaos. I was very thankful that they got the divorce, but it was still a lot of chaos. So when 14 hit, I'll try anything. I'll do anything. I
Mm.
pills, alcohol, like cigarettes, all in one year, all in one single
Wow.
year. Um, but that's what made me feel like I was a part of something. I was a part of somebody. I was a part of these people who are doing these things. I felt more relaxed in front of them than I did in front of the people who were pretending to be good, that were not very
Mm.
good. I'd rather be around the people who are openly just,
Naughty.
being naughty. Yeah, exactly. So
Oh.
that's kind of how I started the coping mechanism of just drinking. And I always told myself I would never drink like them, but when you're around coping, their coping skills were passed on to me and subconscious mind, you that's what I knew. So,
Mm.
at 14, I ended up stealing my mother's gallon of cherry vodka and
Mm.
taking an Oxycontin with my friend, and I passed out. They called the ambulance. I was taken to the hospital, and I had all these things on me. And when I came to, they said, if you would have had one or two more shots, you would have you would have died. You wouldn't have made it. So that was really an eye opener for me. It took a
Mm.
while for me because after that, the people that I hung out with, their parents were like, "Oh, she's no good. She's really no
Oh.
good," So that was really good for me though, because it kind of stopped me, and I've always been the kind of person who felt really guilty once or
Mm.
I'm just naturally guilty and shameful feelings, so I would punish myself. I would lock myself in my room. I wouldn't eat. I would cry. I would punish myself for the things that I did, and that's kind of how it went. And it it wasn't viewed as a child screaming for help. It was
Mm.
viewed as, what are you doing? Look what you have done to me.
Mm.
Instead of, wow, she really needs help. It wasn't seen like that. So
Right. How can I help you? And
yes,
again, a lack of love in
yes,
that
absolutely.
moment.
Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
so
Wow. I love
after
how
I mean,
you brought up the shame and the guilt,
yeah,
right? Because those are very incredibly difficult emotions. I always say shame is
yes.
like human poison.
It really
And
is so toxic.
yes, and those are really hard things to sit with, and those are things that follow us through, are there, especially when you have no outlet for or no validation and no understanding and no love around that. Those are the kind of emotions that drive us and color our experience and our perception and whatnot into our adulthood without us even knowing it, right? And then a lot of times
Absolutely.
we have repeating patterns. Is that the case for you? Did it follow you into adulthood and have repeating patterns?
Yes, I throughout the rest of my teenage years, I struggled, but I tried not to do. I did not do very many pills after that experience because I was very afraid. But the alcohol was outrageous. I drank a lot and I got wild, I got crazy, and I felt powerful, which I didn't feel, and I didn't feel empowered at all. I felt shame most of the time and social
Mm.
anxiety. So that was the only way that I knew how to cope. But once I hit
Yeah.
18, once I hit 18, I got pregnant. I found out I was pregnant and I said I will absolutely not be doing the same thing. I will not be doing the same thing because I started going downhill again right before I found out I was pregnant. And I was trying things that I really shouldn't have been doing. And I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, and I said, no, I have to figure this out. I absolutely have to. And then I did. It just took me a lot longer than I thought it would to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, so I always think it's so interesting that we can uh, we can find love and value in something other than ourselves, your baby,
Yeah.
so you can start to make those changes and in behaviors for the sake of somebody else when it's so
Yeah.
difficult for us to do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
But good for you for recognizing that at such an early age and doing that. So it's already time to take another commercial break, but when we come back, I'd
Okay.
love to hear again, patterns that followed you into adult relationships just briefly, and then I'd
Yeah.
love to hear about your what I call a broken open moment. A lot of people call it a breaking point, but I like to refer to it as a broken open moment and what that
Yeah.
was like for you. So we're going to take a commercial break. We will right back to continue our conversation. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant. Like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D.
Did you?
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, coming to you live on Bold Brave Television Network. I am here today talking to the amazing Katie Zieber. She has been telling us about her, her childhood experiences leading up into adulthood, some of those core beliefs that were developed around her childhood experiences and really impacted your life, huh, Katie? And, you know, um, typically these kind of experiences and that all that emotion that you said, like was stuffed down and trapped inside your body, typically those things follow us into adulthood and influence our relationships that happen. Like we repeat patterns. Is that the case going into adulthood with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what I did. Um, and even with, my children, I was in fear, I was parenting them from fear because I didn't want to
Mm,
be like my parents. But
mm,
I had for a long time gotten into relationships that were just like my mother and father's, where I was the one disconnecting and not trying not to feel all of those emotions, and the other person is just controlling and overbearing. And so I kept going through relationships like that for a really long time because I
Right.
couldn't get. It feels good, that it feels like you're home, but when home feels like hell, it's not really a good scene.
Exactly. Our minds like what's familiar and
Yes.
gravitates towards that. So how did this all come to a place of, that broken open place? Like how did it come to kind of erupt at some point?
Right. Well, I had finally made a decision when I was 24 to leave bad relationships forever, and
Mm.
I found somebody who actually, really truly genuinely cared about me.
Mm.
And that was
Mm.
my first step into kind of switching the frequency I was living at, after a while, we had our own issues. We were both kind of, quiet. We didn't speak about our emotions and all that, and later on, years later, I'd realized that I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger, and I was still
Mm.
drinking to be able to deal with that anger. And so, um, and I was in denial about it too. At first, it's like it's
Mhm.
only 3 times a week. It's only every weekend. It's only every weekend and Wednesday. But
Right.
it's much better than my parents did. So why throw a fit about it? It's fine. But
Mm.
I ended up getting pregnant with my third child, the first one with my husband, and I knew everything was about to change, and it did. My husband ended up losing his job a year after that, which we had bought a home, and so everything kind of started crumbling around, and then we moved from our home that our children loved so much over to a different state and with a
Mm.
very small yard, and it's just everybody went really quick,
Oh.
um, and
Hmm.
so it was sad, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help them. I didn't know how to help me. And so COVID shut down right after that. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it it went into like a massive depression. And what do? We drink because it's COVID, and why not? That's what you're supposed to do, right? So I drank every other day, and I felt like hell every single day. And the only reason it was
Mm.
every other day is because the hangovers were so bad that I couldn't function. So I was angry
Mm.
and I was lashing out, and I wasn't conscious of what I was doing. I wasn't conscious of how my kids were perceiving me. I was just like, I'm just trying to hold this all together. Don't you see that I'm just trying to hold this? I've been trying to hold this all together. Um,
Mm.
but I wasn't completely there. I was holding on to emotions that were really destroying me. And
Mm.
so I was drinking my fibro. I had fibromyalgia, and
Mm.
I was in pain constantly. I had asthma since I was 2, so I was barely breathing. Like every time I wasn't getting a deep breath. And I was
Mm.
chain smoking, so I felt like hell.
Oh.
I felt terrible all the time. I had psoriasis. Like every part of my body was just in. Since my emotions weren't coming out, they were coming out in all other ways. Um,
Absolutely.
and it was painful. I felt like I was trapped inside my body. My digestive issues are the digestive issues we say in RTT, but the digestive issues. I wake up every morning at like 3 o'clock. I wasn't sleeping either. I was waking up every morning at like 3 o'clock saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die in my sleep." I feel it. I feel like it's going to happen. And maybe that was my little checklist of, you know, this is spiritual death, or is it really just
Mm.
like an emotional, but um I actually it came to the point where my father, he he had to go to the hospital, and we didn't realize how much he was really drinking, and he got delirium tremens because he
Mm.
had to go to the hospital to get worked on. And so when I had gone to visit and all the things that were coming up actually started jarring this thought process in me, and like, oh, now it wasn't my fault. He really is sick. He's not okay. He was not okay this whole time. And
Mm.
I understand. I started having compassion for myself instead of shame and guilt for like trying to get away from it. Um,
Mm.
and it kind of started clicking the cogs in place of, okay, I need to switch up. I need to do something. I can't be a drunk. I don't want to be an alcoholic. So I said, I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to start eating healthy. But that's really just deciding. It's really the whole mental thing first. So I started really kind of trying to change my thoughts, trying to change my habits. And after a while, even that wasn't enough because I wasn't doing enough for my body then until my body just kaputs again. And I was going
Mm.
through horrible, horrible pains akin to childbirth, with my
Mm.
stomach, and we didn't have the money to deal with it. So I said, well, I need to be able to figure this out on my own. I'm not just going to sit here and let myself die and not
Mm.
give any kind of try at all. So that's what I did. And
Right. So you probably didn't have like health insurance or means to,
no,
go to a doctor or do things like that. So you really needed to, which actually in the long run was
it's
kind of a
amazing.
blessing in
Thank God.
disguise,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
the issues were within yourself as opposed to outside of yourself, remedies and whatnot. A lot of times, you might have got put on a whole bunch of medication that could have
Yes,
damaged your body even more in the long
absolutely.
run.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you started going within and really looking at your emotional experience. Where did you start with that?
I would say, after I was having the pains and everything, my mother had called me and she said, "You need to watch this show called Heal." And at that time, I had made a stand for myself already. I was done listening to everybody else. I was done trying to make everybody else happy. I was switching that in my head, and so when she first
Right,
brought it
you're
to my
taking
attention,
back your
I'm like, let
power.
me do my own thing. Don't tell me what to do. So then I finally ended up watching the movie that she was telling me to watch, and it was called Heal. It was a Heal documentary, and on it, Joe Dispenza. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of him.
Ah,
Um,
love
Jo-
them.
Joe Dis- Joe Dispenza was talking about how he healed his spine. He had gotten hit by a truck. How he healed his spine with only his mind. With that was it. He was doing meditation. He was reconstructing his back with his mind, and so that ended up just really sitting in to me, and like, oh wow, this is what we're capable of. This, I know this. I can feel that we are capable of this. This guy is telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So after I'm watching it and everything, and they're talking about how we're in this pill mill pretty much of, when there's something
Mm-hmm.
wrong, we go for a pill, and then, we're in this continuous loop. So um, that's when my pineal gland opened. And
Mm.
that was something that I didn't even believe in. Like, I
Mm.
felt like that was something that just, people talked about just to feel like they were better than other people. You know,
Oh, right. So
that's
describe
that's
what that is first off, because literally the first time I heard reference to a pineal gland, I was in this group with these three men on a Zoom call, and I thought I like really, I had no idea what they were talking about. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should be in this conversation. But
right.
I did finally figure out that they were talking about something that, in fact, both male and female people have.
Right.
But can you tell us just briefly what that is, what a pineal gland is?
The pineal gland is a gland that is located right here, and it's like at the back of your head. It's right in the middle there. But
Mm-hmm.
it is what helps you keep your, it's kind of your guiding light. It's your radio receiver for the Wi-Fi of, the quantum, pretty much. So it kind of helps you steer yourself in the right direction because you're seeing it from this vantage point of, you're in a clock tower instead of down here with the ants. You can see what's going on. You can see the patterns playing out. You can understand what's, happening, why you've gotten where you've gotten. You can start kind of figuring that kind of thing out,
Right. So you really start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, develop your understanding. And once you have an understanding of how you came to be where you are and an awareness of the effects of the emotion of the experience, that really is an empowering place to be, because then it puts you in the driver's seat. You start to drive your own bus, right? Instead of the injured little bus driver, you become your own powerful bus driver, and you start into the healing. So it's already time to take a commercial break. So when we come back, I want to hear more about how you dove into that healing and some specific examples of what was helpful for you so that others can learn from your experience and kind of try things on for themselves. So we are going to take another commercial break. We will be right back to continue our conversation. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold, Brave Television. We'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Katie, you have been sharing today your journey through suffering all the way to healing, and I would love in this last few minutes that we have together to hear some specific examples of things that were really helpful to for you in reconnecting with your higher self and reconnecting with your physical self and whatnot. So can you tell us some things that worked for you?
Absolutely. I think it's all about really building that knowledge right off the bat. Like to make those steps towards what you need to do. Like I know I need to do more exercise. I know I need to meditate. But if that is, or you're finding that hard to do, break it down into smaller things. There's beliefs there that you need to deal with first. So just surround yourself with all the knowledge you can on the holistic methods and just live that. It's your life now, Just surround yourself with it, get really engrossed in it. Yoga helps because we shut down our body. We stop listening to it. just to rebuild the circuitry back into the places that you've shut down, get those glands moving, get those information centers, back into telling your brain what's going on, what's happening down there. Meditation is so important. It's just how we are. We need meditation. We absolutely require it to be able to work through thoughts, to be able to figure out where we need to go, to just heal, to get all those things up. If we're constantly keeping our brain running, then we're not able to actually see what's going on behind, you know, the background,
Right.
in the
And,
background.
you can do meditation in so many ways. A lot of times people say, I don't have time to sit calmly for an hour and
I
not
do.
do anything. There's lots of different ways to do meditation. You can even,
Yeah,
yeah, you can do it like for short periods of time, or you can do like walking meditations.
absolutely.
There's
Yes.
so guided meditations are great because a lot of times it's difficult to shut down our mind. And I think you told me one time that it took
Yes.
you like a whole year to
It
quiet your
did.
mind.
Yeah, just for 30
So,
seconds. Very good.
um,
What is that?
but you just kept going with it and you kept practicing
Yes.
it till you got to a point where you could quiet your mind and
Yes.
go with it. And you didn't give up.
No, because I felt like it was unraveling that, that yarn, you're putting it on a nice spool. So you're figuring, you know what I mean? Instead of just being that jumbled up piece of yarn, now you have a nice little spool, Then, and I
Mhm.
felt that. I knew it was helping. And, you will too. If you give it a try, you will too.
Right, right. And then also yoga is so great because it connects us mentally with our physical body. And I think I remember you also telling me that as you did yoga, you could feel like emotion coming out
Yes.
in different parts of your body.
Absolutely. I just heard Mateus to Stefano last night say something about we've got poison. So we open up the wound, we extract the poison, and we turn it into medicine. And that's pretty much what holistic healing is, period. It's just a practice of, turning your own poison into medicine.
Mm, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all these toxic emotional kind of poisons that cause you to have things like fibromyalgia and psoriasis. Emotion comes out so often in these ailments that like doctors can't, really identify a, a medical uh, world
Yeah.
source for, right? That's
Absolutely.
all
Yeah.
because it's emotionally based. And so, do you still have those similar kind of ailments, or tell me what your life
Um,
is
it
like
it
post
was,
doing this healing?
sorry. It was
No, go ahead.
shortly after. It was about a month after that I had my pineal gland open that I didn't feel the fibro anymore. I was walking on tiptoe. That's how hard, that's how much it hurt me to walk with my fibro. But after,
Mm.
it was nothing. Like I've had nothing, no symptoms of fibro at all. So anytime that I have digestive issues now, it's much less than it used to be. And obviously I eat a lot cleaner than I did previously, but I'm able to really connect with, why am I feeling like this? I need to figure out what's going on. Where did this start? Where have I lost consciousness as far as, something happening and me kind of losing track and kind of shoving it down? Because I have shoved down for so long that it's really a practice to keep yourself, up to date with everything that's going on in your body, in your mind, all of it. But asthma, allergies. There's pollen so thick on my car right now, and before I would have been just draining, and coughing so much and having to use my inhaler. But now, I mean, a little congested, but it's fine. I'm doing so much better. I feel so much better. I
Wow.
feel vital. I feel vibrant. I feel energetic, and I never felt that, for a very long time I
Wow.
did not feel that. Yeah.
You know what? And then when we are able to be healthier and more, our authentic selves and feeling supported, then we're better able to support those who we love
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
that's so amazing. I'm so proud of you. Wow, that's
Thank
such
you
great
so
work.
much.
I know it's
Thank
like just
you.
the tip of the iceberg in regard to everything that
Yeah.
we could talk about with your healing
Yes.
journey. So if people would like to maybe follow you on social media, hear more of your story, how would they do that?
I have a TikTok on at Self Evolution with Kate, and it's
All
all the
right.
right spelling and all the right letters and all that. So at Self Evolution with Kate on TikTok.
Nice. I
Yeah.
love the name. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
Self
Thank you.
evolution.
Yes,
So thank you so much for being here today. I look forward to hearing more of your
absolutely.
story. Maybe you could come back later on. And
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, I thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing your story with us today. And
Thank you
thank
for
you
having me,
everybody
Tracy.
for, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for everybody for watching. Um, I appreciate all viewers and listeners. So next week it'll be me. I will be here doing kind of a part 3 of my own personal healing journey. I'll be going into a little greater detail about the guidance that I received in my own deep emotional healing journey, and a little deeper than what I was able to get into on episodes 1 and 2 of Talks with Tracy. So kind of part 3 of Tracy's healing journey. So please join me for that. Until then, this has been Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Bold